Hello again, YouTube, and welcome back to Lonely Rider's channel. In today's episode, we're going to take a quick look at the Z1000, specifically the steering damper. Lonely Rider is not a professional mechanic and is not responsible for any personal injury or vehicle damage that may result from individuals attempting the repair shown in this video. You have been warned. Try at your own risk. This is by far one of the most common things I get asked about on my YouTube channel, so I figured it was about high time that I make a video specifically about this. Unfortunately, when it comes to these much older, early millennium bikes or mid-millennium bikes, it's just kind of hard to find a lot of accessories for them. I mean, you can still find some more generic things like handlebars and grips and things like that, but things that are bike specific like exhaust systems and things like that, it's just hard to find stuff for them anymore. And the reason for that is because manufacturing companies don't really bother with these bikes that are 20 years old. They're focusing on the new bikes that are out, the hot stuff that everyone's buying. They're not going to waste their time manufacturing parts for bikes that hardly anybody has that are 2 decades old. For example, the steering damper. If you get online and you search for steering dampers for the Gen 1 Z1000, you're going to find that your options are incredibly limited. Pretty much going to be limited to a $90 steering damper like this one you see here on eBay, or a $500 or $600 ridiculously expensive ones from like Scott's Racing or something like that, if you can find one of those. And that's pretty much it. There isn't anything in between. A lot of the big names like Öhlins and things like that, I don't even know if they even make one for this bike anymore. You might be able to maybe rig something to fit yourself if you can get a bracket from another, like for example, if you can get the bracket for this one to fit a damper from a different company, you might be able to like rig up a hybrid system. But just an out-of-the-box kit, there really aren't that many that I could find on the internet, and that was even 6 years ago. I just hopped online real quick to search just a minute ago, and I still couldn't find much. And yes, you can tell they are kind of cheap. This one, for example, it actually was originally black, but it is now gold, and that's because they just took a gold one and they painted it black real quick and shipped it to me, and the paint has pretty much come off, so it's a gold one now. Yeah, they are kind of cheap, but the hydraulic portion does actually work, and it is actually adjustable. You can actually adjust it for softer or heavier, and so it does actually work. It is a little cheaply made, but it does work. It does actually help to stabilize the front. Of course, it's not going to work as well as a name brand like an Öhlins or even the stock one on the Gixxer over there. No, it's not going to work that good, but the only time you probably would need something like that is if you were going to do track days. If you're going to do track days, you might have to buy the $600 steering damper. But for everyday riding, having this is better than having nothing. So it's up to you if you want to buy one of these or not. I'll link to a couple of them on eBay that are either exactly like this or really similar to this one. Again, they're going to be anywhere from about, I think, $80 to $90 depending. If you search for one yourself, you just have to make sure that you buy the complete kit with the mounting brackets and everything. Sometimes they sell just the hydraulic portion and it doesn't come with all the mounting hardware, so you just have to make sure if you get one yourself that you get the kit. The links that I will make in the description will be for the complete kit that comes with everything that you need. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to remove the steering damper, remove all the hardware, put the bike back stock except for this bracket down here. I'm not going to take that off because that would just be a pain for me to do here just for the sake of the video. I'm going to leave that on. It's really easy to put on. I'll explain how you put it on, but I'm going to disassemble all of this up here and I'm going to show you how to put this together. It's really simple. It's literally just a couple of bolts, but I'm going to demonstrate that and I'll talk a little bit more about this. So let's hop into it. As you can see here, I set the bike back stock, minus the handlebar of course, but this is how the bike handlebar mount would be stock. The only thing is I did not take off the mounting bracket. So that is the mounting bracket there. It's literally just a clamp, a 2-piece clamp, a bottom piece and a top piece that goes around the frame right there. So what you do is you just take them apart, take the bolts apart, slide the bottom piece in through that hole right there in the frame, and then put the top piece on above it, slide the bolts in and just thread them in and then tighten them down. If I remember correctly, it's really not hard to do. I didn't even have to remove the gas tank or anything. It just makes sure that when you do, you always put a towel down around your gas tank. Now, as you can see, it's going to get pretty close to your gas tank. So right there is about how much room you have. So you just want to make sure when you put it on, you try to put it up against the triple clamp as much as you can so that it doesn't rub against your gas tank and take the paint off. And this here is everything that comes in a typical kit. At least this is everything that came in my kit, plus of course the mounting bracket as well. So this piece right here, this I think must be either for a different motorcycle or for a different hydraulic unit. You will not need this piece, so just set that aside. You are only going to need this piece right here to connect this to the mounting bracket over there. So you're going to need the one that has the bolt going through the bottom, that has the little rubber bushing. Mine needs replaced, but it's just in like a ball joint so it can move a little bit. And then you get to it from the top with an Allen key like that to install it. You also have a couple of bolts here, a bracket here that goes onto the handlebar bracket, and then of course the hydraulic damper itself. To install this kit, you're going to need a 6mm hex, a 5mm hex, and a 4mm hex, or Allen key, whatever you want to call it. So to begin, we're going to install the bracket that bolts onto the handlebar clamp. First, remove the old plastic covers from your button head screws, and remove the 2 bolts on the right side of your handlebar clamp. Now take your bracket and your 2 longer bolts that came with the kit. The bracket is machined so that those fit down inside those holes like that. And then put the longer bolts in and tighten them down. And put your plastic covers back on. Now you're going to want to get your 4mm wrench and this clamp, and the screw in the ball joint on this one just threads into the top of the clamp that's on the bike, and tighten it down. Now if this is mounted correctly, it's supposed to be able to spin left and right even with that bolt tight, to spin with the hydraulic damper as you turn the handlebars. So you got to make sure it spins after you tighten it down. Now it's time for the hydraulic damper itself. So here's the damper. This is the common style you will find on eBay. It is adjustable. So for example, here's all the way as soft as it goes. There's barely any resistance at all, and I can really crank it up heavy to where I can barely push it. So you're going to need this. You're going to need the small bolt, and you're going to need your 5mm wrench. Go ahead and slide the hydraulic unit into the clamp, and go ahead and put the bolt in the clamp, but don't tighten it just yet. You'll see why. Now go ahead and get the spacer, the metal spacer, and the medium-sized bolt that comes with the kit. Okay, so now you're going to put this spacer in there on that bracket, line these up, and thread the bolt through. And go ahead and tighten that bolt down. Okay, now with that tightened down, now you can kind of straighten your bike out, and you can spin this way to your liking, and then tighten down the clamp. Now the problem with having it tilted up like this is I'm always afraid I'm going to bump this with my hand and change my settings. So what I do is I kind of tilt it forward about like that, so I can still easily get to the knob if I want to adjust it on the fly for some reason, but it's going to be kind of down and out of the way so it doesn't get bumped a lot. And then go ahead and tighten down the clamp. Now that you got everything on and bolted down, go ahead and do a function test. Make sure everything's spinning, everything's turning, and make sure nothing's loose. And then you can, even just sitting still, you can hop on the bike, get a feel for how heavy it makes the steering. So for example, if I make it all the way soft, the steering is almost as light as it is without the damper on it at all. So if I turn it way up, I can feel it's getting a lot heavier already. There's maximum right there. And it's very hard to turn. It's not, again, as nice as a nice name brand or electronic damper that can adjust itself based on speed, but for what it is, and for an old bike like this, it will do. I mean, it's not the best thing out there, I get it, but again, with an older bike like this, your options are limited. You kind of have to go with what you can get. It does work. I will attest to that. It does work. Now, again, I don't do track days, but just for everyday riding on the road, it does help a lot. Well, that's it for this episode. The next video I do on the Z will most likely be the rear shock. I actually want to do a video on the very common 636 shock swap mod on this bike. I actually have a shock off of a 636. The next video on the Gixxer will be showing installing the power commander, the air filter, and blocking off the pair system. I might also change the spark plugs as well. And I also have a few more videos I want to do on the Z as well, showing the installing the power commander on this bike and a few others. So there will be more videos coming, so stay tuned. Catch you guys later.